Hey there, all you musical theater mavens. Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 15 of Broadway Jeopardy. As of now, I'm bringing you a brand new episode of Broadway Jeopardy every Thursday starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you're subscribed. You have all been killing it lately, judging by your scores in the comments. I know some episodes are harder than others, but that's the nature of the game, I suppose. I love hearing from you guys. Keep posting your scores, keep suggesting new categories, but I do read every comment, so if you hated all my categories or you think I'm a big dummy or something,
he's an idiot. The man is an idiot, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe don't write that in the comments, but I guess you do you, everyone. Anyways, though, enough of that. Let's jump right into this week's game. This is Broadway Jeopardy! Taking a look at this week's categories, we of course start off as always with last week's final Jeopardy category, which was shows about show business, looking specifically at musicals about theater, or at least theater adjacent. That's followed by The Nanny. I recently did a rewatch of the hit sitcom The Nanny, and there was just so many theater jokes and references, I thought it'd be fun to do a visual category highlighting the series. After that, it's Best Play. Yes, an all-straight play category that some of you have been begging me for, some nicer than others, but here it is, looking at plays that have won the Best Play Tony Award. The next category is Taglines. Here, I'll give you a tagline used by a show, either in their marketing or on their poster, etc., and you name the show. And last but not least, we have Moo, looking at some cows featured in or mentioned in various musicals. And we of course end with the final Jeopardy round, so make sure and keep track of your scores. If you want though, I'm not checking, you could just have fun and answer some questions. We begin in the $200 round, of course, what I call the overture round, where the questions tend to be on the easier side to help you rack up some fake money before I get to the harder questions. Let's look at some shows about show business. Your first $200 clue is, this Sondheim musical was a major flop in 1981. 40 years later, a revival starring Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Daniel Radcliffe would set the record as the highest weekly grossing Sondheim show ever. What is Merrily We Roll Along? It's one of the greatest legacies in Broadway history, I think. For so long, Merrily was known as one of the biggest bombs of all time, mainly because it was the sort of fall of Sondheim and Hal Prince and their partnership, and Sondheim actually almost gave up the theater because of it. To today, when Merrily was a sellout smash hit, making some of the biggest money on Broadway and winning the Tony for Best Revival. And now, it's really as beloved as any Sondheim show. Also, this is totally random, but I think you'll find it interesting. The original play, Merrily We Roll Along by George S. Kaufman and Moss Hart, that the musical is very loosely based on. A play, mind you, opened at the relatively small Music Box Theater with a cast of 55 people. That's insane. I mean, how many people were to a dressing room? 15? Crazy. Anyways, moving on to The Nanny. Your $200 clue is, Mr. Sheffield tries to talk Fran out of another job by inventing a dream in a clear parody of this classic musical.
What's this I hear about your nanny on a talk show?
On a talk show!
Who's the schmuck who let her do this to your children?
To your children!
What is Fiddler on the Roof? Mr. Sheffield invents a dream where Fran's booby Sophie tells her not to take a job, just like Tevye faked a dream about his wife's grandmother Zeidel not wanting her great-granddaughter to marry Laser Wolf. And Laser Wolf's first wife not being too happy about the arranged marriage either.
What is this about your daughter marrying my husband? Yes, your husband! Would you do this to your friend and neighbor from Sarah?
Over in the Best Play category, the $200 clue is, regarded as one of the greatest American plays of all time, This Pulitzer Prize winner by Arthur Miller follows Willy Loman and his family. What is Death of a Salesman? The 1949 masterpiece by Arthur Miller is a powerful drama. I was lucky enough to see the Broadway revival in 2012, starring Andrew Garfield as Biff Loman and the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman as Willy Loman. Incredible production. But for all the brilliance of the text and that production I saw, I must admit, when I think of Death of a Salesman, I always think of Kevin Kline doing a dinner theater version in Soap Dish.
Well, I got on the road and I went north to Providence. Met the mayor.
The mayor of Providence?
What did you say?
The mayor.
Who?
The mayor of Providence.
Who?
You said the mayor of Providence, Pop?
Yeah, the mayor of Providence. Rhode Island.
Oh, waiter!
Let's take a look at a tagline. The $200 clue is divorced, beheaded, live in concert. What is 6 is the answer. 6 is an odd duck when you think about it. I was asked once by someone what kind of show 6 was, like a jukebox musical or a concert, and I kind of had a hard time coming up with an answer, especially because I hate the term concept musical, but that's a story for another video, I suppose. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter. 6 is just awesome. And finishing out the $200 round in the moo category, your clue is, this is the name of the cow in the musical Into the Woods. Who is Milky White is the correct answer. Now, Into the Woods is a very popular show and is done in local and regional theaters and schools all the time. And I love and encourage all amateur theater, and they are not to be laughed at. But there is an amazing Tumblr called Low Budget Milky Whites that have pictures of some of the most, let's say, artistic versions of the famous cow. I mean, come on, look at this one. I can't. I hope you all did well with that first round. It's time to move on to the only slightly harder $400 round now. Circling back to shows about show business, your $400 clue is, in Gypsy, Madame Rose is thrilled when this man, a booking agent for the Orpheum vaudeville circuit, is brought by Herbie to Louise's birthday party. Rose even offers him an egg roll. Who is Mr. Goldstone is the answer. There's not much of a character there, Mr. Goldstone. He's almost more of a prop, really. All for the charming song where Rose is beside herself at the thought of her girls, and herself, finally making it in vaudeville.
Have an egg roll, Mr. Goldstone. Have a napkin, have a chopstick, have a chair. Have a spare rib, Mr. Goldstone. Any spare that I can spare, I'll be glad to share.
Going over the Manhattan Bridge to the Sheffield's door with the nanny, the $400 clue is, this is the long-running musical that Broadway producer Maxwell Sheffield infamously passed on.
I think I was about to do this musical with a bunch of people running around dressed as
Heaven forbid.
Oh, terrible.
What is Cats? Yes, Mr. Sheffield not only passed on Cats, which nobody in the series will let him forget, but we learn later in the run that he passed on a few other shows too.
Well, we go back to London days. I tried to get him to produce my friend's play, but he thought it was a dog. What was the name of it? Hair?
Cats and hair.
You're a friend of Pete Townsend's, aren't you? Yeah, you're that guy that passed on Tommy.
Tommy, hair, cats.
The $400 clue in the Best Play category is, this intense drama by Edward Albee takes place over one evening at George and Martha's dysfunctional house. What is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? The scathing evening of theater has had many wonderful productions throughout its years. The original starred acting guru Uta Hagen and Arthur Hill. The film, of course, was Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I've seen 2 Broadway revivals, one with Kathleen Turner and Bill Irwin, and another with Amy Morton and Tracy Letts. Sadly, a revival starring Laurie Metcalf and Rupert Everett had played just 9 previews when Broadway was shut down for the pandemic and the production never resumed. Up next for the taglines category, your $400 clue is now and forever. What is Cats? For a while, it did look like Cats would last forever, but all good things must come to an end, and so did Cats. Cats ran for 18 years on Broadway and 21 years in London's West End.
It was singing pussycat people in a giant garbage can. I mean, what would you have done?
2 words, Mr. Sheffield. Still running.
And your final $400 clue in the moo category is, in Rent, this character performs a number telling a story about a cow named Elsie who is forbidden from producing milk in Cyberland. Who is Maureen is the right answer. Originated by Idina Menzel, Maureen does her protest performance of Over the Moon with gusto.
And I lowered myself beneath her swollen udder, and I sucked the sweetest milk I had ever tasted.
Let's jump right into the $600 round now with shows about show business. And the clue: this musical, based on the Woody Allen comedy of the same name, starred Zach Braff, Nick Cordero, and Marin Mazzie, and was actually a jukebox musical featuring popular songs from the 1920s. What is Bullets Over Broadway? Now, all that business about Woody Allen aside, the film Bullets Over Broadway is a comedy masterpiece with a memorable performance from one of my favorite actors ever, Diane Wiest.
No, don't speak. Don't speak. Don't speak. No. Silence. Silence. Don't speak.
The musical had a good script to work off of, but the whole idea of a jukebox musical with songs from the 20s, it was not it. It was not the answer. There was some amazing performances, including Marin Mazzie in the Diane Wiest role.
Don't speak. Don't speak. Be silent. Be silent. Please don't speak. Be silent.
And Nick Cordero stole the show as the gangster with a flair for the dramatic.
If I take my best companion, drive him right in the canyon, take nobody's business if I do. If I go to church on Sunday, burn down my school on Monday.
Both incredible performers are sadly no longer with us. Schlepping over to the nanny category, your $600 clue is, while trying to hide Lauren Lane's real-life pregnancy, the show made meta jokes about sitcoms hiding baby bumps, including having her character, Cece Babcock, hold an oversized poster of this Broadway musical. What is Baby? It's a hilariously meta joke about actresses in sitcoms hiding their real-life pregnancies in odd ways, only to have Cece, who was really pregnant at the time, do the same things.
I was watching this rerun of Seinfeld, and Elaine must have been, 12 months pregnant. And they didn't even acknowledge it. They just kept hiding her behind these huge props. Now, this needs water.
The best of the gags, I think, was a reference to the 1983 musical. Your $600 clue in the Best Play category is, this hit show currently rocking Broadway holds the record for the most Tony nominations for a play ever. What is stereophonic? The excellent play with killer music is sort of like the author took the story of Fleetwood Mac and the Rumors album, but made it original enough, sort of releasing himself from needing to stick to real dates and facts and what the actual people did, and let the piece move narratively. It's a brilliant show. I've seen it once and I'm seeing it again very soon. And I haven't stopped listening to the whole cast album since it dropped. Masquerade is a bop.
Got my ticket to the masquerade. Sold is sold and the money paid.
Moving on to the taglines category, the $600 clue is God's favorite musical. What is the Book of Mormon is the correct answer. It's probably debatable that the Book of Mormon is actually God's favorite musical. Let's ask him. God, what's your favorite musical? I'm a fan of Legally Blonde, actually. Huh. Well, that was unexpected. Let's move on to the moo category. The $600 clue is, in this musical, you'll see a group of French soldiers catapult a poor cow at some unsuspecting English knights. What is Spamalot? The iconic French taunters shout, "Fetchez la vache," which means go get the cow in English, and they catapult the beast over the castle wall and onto the silly knights below. A full-size stuffed cow was actually thrown over the castle wall in the original production of Spamalot, and it always brought the house down.
Fetchez la catapult! Fetchez la catapult! And fetchez la vache! Fetchez la vache! What's a la vache?
Sire, if I'm not mistaken, la vache means the cow.
What could they possibly do with a cow?
It's time to really turn up the difficulty with the $800 round, but before we do, please, oh pretty please, take a second and hit that like button if you're enjoying this week's episode. It does go a long way to help YouTube show this video to more fine folks like yourselves, and also lets me know that you like what I do and want me to keep going. Thanks everyone, I do very much appreciate it. Alrighty, for $800, let's take in a show about show business with the clue, this landmark all-black revue was brought back to life in 2016 when a musical about the making of the revue opened with the secondary title, The Making of the Musical Sensation of 1921 and All That Followed. What is Shuffle Along? The original Shuffle Along had not only an all-black cast, but an all-black creative team as well, which was certainly not the norm in the 1920s, as you might suspect. The score was by the great Eubie Blake and Noble Sissel, and the book was by comedy team F.E. Miller and Aubrey Lyles. The musical was a smash hit, running 504 performances in 1921, an astounding number for that time. Here's something cool for my archives. This here is actually an advertising device for Shuffle Along. Is it going to focus? You can kind of see it there. It reads, "You are taking no chances when you see the musical novelty Shuffle Along by Miller and Lyles, Sissel and Blake, celebrating 1 year in New York." And on the back, it's a little game. It's got numbers. It says shuffle them, and there's little balls inside, so you're supposed to like roll the dice and see what you get. But this is actually from 1922, this little advertising piece. One of my favorite little random bits and bobs in my musical theater history collection. The next visual clue for The Nanny for $800 is this acclaimed composer seen here guest starred as Fran's old music teacher and a look-alike of himself. Who is Marvin Hamlish. So that might have been a bit confusing. In the episode, Cece Babcock, Mr. Sheffield's long-suffering producing partner, lies and says she got a job offer from Marvin Hamlish, the legendary composer of A Chorus Line and many hit songs. Mr. Hamlish actually makes an appearance towards the end of the episode to back up this fib, to the surprise of everyone, none more so than Cece.
You know, I saw A Chorus Line
Save it, Niles. This is Alan Nida, my music teacher from Hillcrest High School. Isn't he a dead ringer for Marvin Hamlish?
I don't see it.
Up next in the Best Play category, your $800 clue is, in the film version of this drama by William Inge, Marilyn Monroe stars as Cherie, a woman unwantedly pursued by a man named Beau. What is Bus Stop? I love William Inge, I must say, one of my favorite playwrights. The play is set in a rural diner during a snowstorm as a group traveling by bus takes shelter inside. In the original Broadway cast was Kim Stanley, one of the greatest performers of her generation, and Elaine Stritch, who was nominated for a Tony for her role as the owner of the diner. There was a musical version of Bus Stop supposedly coming to Broadway in 1972 actually, called Cherry, but that bus never came to town. The $800 clue in the tagline category is, it's time to change musical theater history. What is Back to the Future is the correct answer. I actually really love that tagline, of course, being the musical theater history nerd that I am. Back to the Future is still currently playing on Broadway and in London, and I'm sure it will be touring the world soon enough. If you love the film Back to the Future, odds are you'll enjoy the musical version as well. It's probably the most faithful adaptation from screen to stage ever. And now let's milk this moo category for $800. Your clue is, in Gypsy, Dainty June has a moo cow, a new cow, a true cow, named this. Who is Caroline? When Rose has one of her infamous dreams for a new act, this time Dainty June and her farm boys, that dream also involves Caroline the cow.
I have a moo cow, a new cow, a true cow named Caroline.
Moo 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 moo.
She's an extra special friend of mine.
Moo 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 moo.
Well, my friends, we have reached that point, the big show, the main event. It's the $1,000 round. Give me that dramatic music. Good luck, everyone. Our final clue in the shows about show business category is, though a modest hit when it premiered in 1953, this musical by Rodgers and Hammerstein about a backstage love triangle at a long-running musical between a chorus girl and assistant stage manager and the house electrician is almost never seen today. What is Me and Juliet? The musical was ultimately a hit for the powerhouse team of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II in 1953, running over a year and making back a small profit. A backstage musical was an idea Richard Rodgers had loved and tried to work on for years, but Hammerstein had no real interest in it. Oscar finally relented, but many have made the case that his lack of enthusiasm for the project led to one of his weaker books. Another really random story, one of my very best friends from high school, Drew, once bet me a good amount of money that there was a musical called Peanut Butter and Jelly, and was shocked that I'd never heard of it, despite me assuring him that no such musical called Peanut Butter and Jelly existed. Anyways, long story short, he was thinking of Me and Juliet. So, Drew, if you're watching, this question was for you, pal. Let's get one more clue about that flashy girl from Flushing, the nanny. Your $1,000 clue is, this is the name of the musical Mr. Sheffield puts up based on old correspondence from Fran's grandma, seen here.
I'm in love with the waiter
Who cannot afford to date her?
On the bright side, he can cater.
Boy, his folks are gonna hate her.
What is Yetta's Letters? Now, I know you probably have to be a big fan of The Nanny to have gotten this one, but with last week's fake musicals category, I had to put at least one clue in about Yetta's Letters. For $1,000, your clue in the best play category is: the play Torch Song Trilogy was written by and starred this acclaimed writer and star of stage and screen. Who is Harvey Fierstein? The play, as the title states, is actually a trilogy of 3 plays performed as 3 acts. And yes, the play lasted 4 hours on Broadway. The individual plays are named International Stud, Fugue in a Nursery, and Widows and Children First. Besides Harvey Fierstein in the leading role of Alan, the play starred Matthew Broderick off-Broadway and Fisher Stevens when the play moved to Broadway, and both runs starred Estelle Getty as Ma. Miss Getty is of course famous for playing another Ma.
I'll tell you something, Dorothy. No matter how much pain I went through, and it was a lot, I wouldn't give up having you for anything in the world.
Thanks, Ma.
And I knew you'd be special.
And I didn't disappoint you.
A little.
Up next in the taglines category, the $1,000 clue is the most phantasmagorical stage musical in the history of everything. What is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? A toughie, I know, but one of my favorite taglines ever. I've used phantasmagorical so much now, thanks to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I loved the stage version of Chitty. I had never seen the film actually before I saw it. I've seen it since. But the first time I went to London was on a school trip and I saw 6 shows, including a very early preview of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I'll tell you, when the car flew over my head, I was a kid again, and definitely shed some tears of wonder and joy. And the final $1,000 clue over in the Moo category is: long before the famous film, in the original 1903 Broadway production of The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy traveled to Oz not with a dog, but with a cow named this. Who is Imogene is the right answer. $1,000 round's pretty hard this week, so, you know, don't beat yourself up. Imogene the cow was created just for this production, so that not only would they not have to have a real trained dog to worry about, but a cow would also be much easier to see in a theater setting. The 1910 silent film version of The Wizard of Oz was inspired by the very popular stage show, and therefore Imogene the cow is present in that as well. But not only that, in the silent film, Dorothy, Imogene, Toto, the Scarecrow, and Hank the Mule are all swept to Oz by the Twister. That's a ragtag group you never heard of before. All right, tally up your scores, everyone. We have reached the final Jeopardy round. It's time to decide how confident you feel in the category Shows About Hollywood. See, we had shows about theater, now Hollywood. It's a pattern, you see. Anyways, has everyone made their wagers? Robert? Jackie? Miss Robusta? Okay, here is your final clue. This 1990 Tony winner for Best Musical lives half in the real world with a writer named Stein and half in the world he created, that of a hard-boiled detective in Hollywood named Stone. What is City of Angels? City of Angels is a great show with an amazing score by Cy Coleman and David Zippel. This show is at the very top of my personal list of shows that need revivals. For the original production, the sets, costumes, and makeup for the In the World of the Detective novel were all in tones of black, white, and gray, while the scenes and the characters in the real world were all in color. Very cool, and it always makes me think of the drag queen Detox when she did her famous black and white finale look. Anyways, definitely explore the musical City of Angels if you don't know it. One of my faves. And that's this week's game! We've made it through another one, everybody! How did you all do? Are you flush with cash, or did you flush it all away? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I do love hearing from you guys. As I've said in more recent videos, I'm bringing you a new episode every week, but it's just feeling like the videos aren't growing and I need your help. So if you love Broadway Jeopardy and want it to survive, please share the videos with as many people as you can. If anyone watching is attending the annual Broadway Cares flea market at the end of this month, I will be attending as well, and I had stickers made. Look! Broadway by Ghostlight stickers! Very cool. So if you see me there, come on up and say hi and get a sticker. Though fair warning, I'm a bit crazed that day. So many props, so little time. A huge thank you, as always, to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. You guys rock. I have a fun Patreon chosen category coming up next week, a category I never would have thought of on my own. Very exciting. A link to my Patreon and my merch shop, where you can get fun Schmigadoon shirts like this, is in the video description. You can of course follow me on the socials at BWayGhostlight. But until next week, I'm Mark Bonanni. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for playing.